So you're not sabotaging yourself when you emotionally eat. And I know that might seem strange, so let's dive in. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And I wanted to talk about this concept because I think when we are emotionally eating, it looks like, oh my God, why do I keep screwing things up? Why do I keep binging? Why do I keep eating when I don't want to? Why am I sabotaging myself? Why am I sabotaging my goals? Why am I doing this? And it can feel really harsh and it feels like, what's wrong with me? But that's not what's really going on. If we understand what emotional eating really is, a coping mechanism, we're going to understand that we're not trying to sabotage ourselves. We're trying to take care of ourselves. We're trying to help ourselves. So emotional eating is a coping mechanism, which means that we use it to help us whenever discomfort, distress, uncomfortable emotions come up. This is what we go to. We go towards food. And so if we are going towards food, that means it's meeting a need, but it's not meeting a need in a healthy way. Of course, if we're overeating, if we're eating when we're not hungry, it's impacting our body. It's not actually helping us. And so it can feel like we're sabotaging ourselves, but we don't know a better way. We don't know how to actually meet that need. And if we rewind and we go all the way back to when this pattern would have formed, in childhood, we most likely didn't have parents or caregivers that could help us move through our discomfort, distress, and uncomfortable emotions. They weren't able to be a really calm and safe spot for us to help us move through and get to the other side. And that means that we were left with this discomfort, these uncomfortable emotions. If we're feeling sadness or hurt, it's painful in our body. And of course, we want to feel better. And that's where we find ourselves going towards food, because food in our body, when we eat it physiologically, it creates a chemical reaction. It releases dopamine. It helps us sort of soothe and numb and not feel that pain. And so over time, this pattern becomes really automatic. And so what we needed as children were our parents to help us move through our emotions, because as children, we're sensing the world. If someone raises their voice at us, or if we touch something or we do something and we're feeling sensations which translate to emotions. We're feeling hurt or sad or upset. Our body is giving us information to move away or do something with relation to what's happening around us. And we're meant to be able to move through those emotions, to understand them with a calm parent or caregiver, so that we could move through those emotions, we could co-regulate with them, understand what the emotion is about, because they're attuning to us, they're helping us move through it so that it helps us process that emotion in the emotional brain, and we can open up to the prefrontal cortex. We can't jump into logic. We have to move through our emotion. And if we didn't have that from our parents or caregivers, because developmentally, we can't do that for ourselves. Our brain isn't fully developed. Our prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed into our early 20s and maybe even beyond. So we need this from our parents and caregivers. When we don't have this, we have to cope with the discomfort and stress that comes up in our lives. And so for us, if you're an emotional eater, you go towards food. It's been the thing that's been able to help you, but it's a band-aid. It's not meeting your true needs. Your true needs are to be able to move through those emotions, to understand them, and to process and move through them. But what we're told in our society, and what's reinforced, and most likely why our parents weren't able to model this to us, is that emotions aren't important. We shouldn't move through them. We should distract from them. We need to be bigger than them. And we miss out on our actual biology and what they're there for. They're important. Emotions are important. We just need to be able to slow down and move through them to hear their information. And from there, when our nervous system gets calm, we can decide our next action step. But of course, we think something's wrong with our emotions because we usually react from them. We don't know how to move through them, and so they get a really bad rap. So if our emotions come up and we didn't have this modeling and we're going towards food, we're using food as a way to soothe ourselves, to regulate our nervous system, to give us some sense of calm, to help our nervous system not feel like we don't want to feel completely out of control. But of course, it feels like it's sabotaging us because we're then going towards food. We're emotionally eating. We're not meeting our goals. We're not feeling good in our body because it's impacting us on so many levels. And so how do we actually start meeting our deeper needs? Well, we need to be able to repattern and go back and allow this part of us that's been using food to cope to learn a new way, to learn the way we needed to meet our true needs, to give ourselves what our parents and caregivers didn't give to us, to model that to ourselves. And we do that, obviously, when I'm working with clients, I'm doing that with them in a process and teaching them how to do this for themselves. And so it's about getting into the root of this pattern, moving through those uncomfortable emotions, getting to a space of calm, and giving yourselves the deeper needs, core needs that you needed to be seen and heard and validated and attuned to move through those emotions. And when you do that, food can't fill that hole. So if this was your need and you kept putting food in, food was great temporarily. But when you put in you meet your true needs, you put in the real thing, it's like food cannot do what the real thing can do, meeting your true needs. It cannot do that. And food can then become food and take its place. It's no longer almost like a drug. And that is very freeing. This is not about distracting yourself from a distraction. I know when we think, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this emotion, and we think we're smarter than it versus dropping into it to understand it, we go for a walk or a shower, or we try to distract ourselves with a distraction. That's not meeting your deeper needs. That emotion is not resolved. You're not learning how to actually sustainably resolve this deeper urge coming up to meet for food. And what I've seen with clients is that when food is so powerful, and when certain foods are so powerful to meet that need, doesn't matter how much you shower or go for walks, you're going to come back and be stronger. You're going to have a stronger urge to emotionally eat because it's not meeting your needs. And so when we actually hit the nail on the head and get to that root and meet it fully, give yourself what you actually needed, that's how we can remove food. We don't want to be distracting from a distraction. And I think it works temporarily, and I tried those solutions too, but it didn't work for me either. We have to meet those deeper needs. And when I'm working with clients, the way we're doing this is through a few different ways. We're connecting back to food, their body, and their emotions, but specifically to meet those deeper emotional needs, we're using somatic meditations with inner child and parts work. And I'm also intuitively guiding them through a process so that we get into what started this pattern and we're meeting that need on a deep body level so that it literally shifts the nervous system. There's almost like an exhale, an aha, an awareness of why they were emotionally eating. And when we meet those needs, it's like food detaches and it cannot meet them anymore. And so we show ourselves how to actually meet our needs, and we transform the part of us that's been emotionally eating using food to actually using what we need and shifting to a way of meeting our true needs. And so it's not that we're sabotaging ourselves. We've just been using the wrong method to meet our needs. We've been using food instead of meeting our deeper emotional needs with attunement and being seen and heard and getting into the body. And this is something we weren't taught, and most likely our parents or caregivers weren't taught this, but we can do this for ourselves now. And so if you want to get started on this journey, you want to start shifting your emotional eating in a sustainable way, the first step I recommend to clients is to start discerning true from emotional hunger and catching your triggers. And so if you want to start doing that, I have a free guide below called What Are You Truly Hungry For? You can get started on that. And if you want to resolve your emotional eating in a sustainable way and you want that support and that guidance, I'd love to invite you to find out more about the Emotional Eating Evolution Program. This is my 12-week container. It has the step-by-step process, weekly coaching sessions, one-to-one sessions with me, in-depth tools to help you shift your emotional eating sustainably, to get to ease and confidence around food and in your body, and get to the other side and not use substitutes, and get to the other side in a way that actually meets your true needs. So if you want to find out more about the program or the guide, the links are below. If you have any questions about what I've shared today, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.